Meg Scully, Orange County. Go Triangle.
Got
Paul Kingman, Go Triangle, Tax District Administration.
Meg, Caroline.
Oops, sorry. They're speaking.
Caroline Dwyer, Chapel Hill Transit.
Becca Eversole Robinson, Town of Carborough.
Landon Coley, UNC Chapel Hill.
Maddie for Town of Hillsborough.
Jay Haggis, Go Triangle.
Steven Schlossberg, Tax District Administration, Go Triangle.
Priscilla Gilchrist, Go Triangle.
All on.
Oh, sorry,
Meg.
I said it earlier. Paul Kingman, Go Triangle, Tax District Administration.
Great, thank you. Are we aware of any adjustments to the agenda? All right, seeing none, do we have any public comments? I don't think anybody's here in person. Do we have anybody online? Okay, let's go on to the December staff working group meeting minute approval. Do we have a motion?
So move.
Support?
Second, Caroline.
Right. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next, we have fiscal year 25 quarter 3 work program amendment. The recommended action is to approve the amendment. So how do we want to proceed with that?
Happy to move approval.
We have support?
Second.
All right, great. Second by Matt from Hillsborough. Any discussion? Hearing none. Anybody in opposition to recommending this amendment to the Orange County Board of County Commissioners? All right, the amendment is recommended unanimously.
Hey, Doug, just quick one question quickly. Nothing with the amendment except just I want to make sure for it'll be on the Audit and Finance Committee for the Go Triangle Board on the first Wednesday of the month. So hopefully everybody who's once got their diligent emails to show that it's there. But Nish, when do you what date do you anticipate your board, meaning the Orange County Board, to
I'll be able to
approve?
do it till mid-February, like the second week in February. I'll try to see if I can get it done the first meeting in February, but if not, I'll be the second meeting in February.
Okay, well, I need an actual date to write on the memo. So
Let me get back to you on that. Let me go look at the
Okay.
calendar.
yeah, try to email it like ASAP because I would like to submit.
I'll get
my
it to you
memo,
today.
like, okay, there, perfect. There you go.
All right. See, the next item is recommending the draft annual work plan.
It's a new, we want to discuss the new projects first. I think this was an item we didn't have a good detailed meeting last time, so.
Did we lose Nish? I can't hear him.
I turned my mute on. Sorry, Nish is sitting next to me.
I'll turn mine mute.
Are you gonna?
One of you has to be unmuted.
Oh, now can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Correct me if I'm, and thank you so much for this. I appreciate for everybody's inconvenience or anything like that, but in front of you should be the list of the new projects or the change in projects. These are all the yellow and the blue highlighted from the draft table. Please correct me if I'm missing anything, need to add or remove anything, and happy to discuss these projects.
What is the difference between the blue and the yellow?
I think the blue is the change in 2.5% or more than the 2.5% that's already programmed, already in the plan. So it's not a really new project. The yellow is the actual new stuff, I think. Because as you can see, some of these don't have prior year balance, but the FY26 request are the ones that have the yellow or like new requests. The blue is simply a carry, is continue already approved, already there, and is
I see.
seeking above the 2.5% thing.
Do we have any former project IDs that we need to liquidate as part of finishing off the annual work program? This came up in Durham, Stephen, if you'll recall.
Yeah, so I think what Doug is saying, one of the processes that we are doing in Durham is we're asking partners working with the Durham Staff Working Group Administrator on certain projects that we think will subside by the end of the year. So for example, I believe, at least for the light rail for Go Triangle, it's not going to carry forward into FY26. There's an ERP project for Go Triangle that's anticipated to end by the end of this fiscal year. So one of the goals that we're asking, and this is something I think Staff Working Group Administration should lead on, is working with the partners on if we think that there's any projects that either we could include as a possible closeout list going forward. I would also note, though, as part of the budget process, we meet up with everybody around May. We reach out for estimates going into next year. So that also will be another time for example, I'm looking here to say, let me give a fake one, but like if the Morgan Creek Greenway is not needed, where the partners could say, we don't need to carry over that money. But I think what Doug is asking, just at a high level, based on any active projects, are we aware of any that any of the partners anticipate being able to alleviate? And the only one I'm aware of is the light rail right now. So Doug, does that kind of more or less summarize it?
Yes, thank you.
So
I
just to
don't have any
recap,
feedback on that, but I do have some feedback on this or questions about this list. So to loop back to.
yes.
Yeah, I was gonna ask Nish if maybe should each sponsor just run through and explain like in 1 second what the difference is on each one?
Before we
Well-
even get to that,
Okay.
I have a couple questions. So my first question is, if there's a prior year balance and an FY26 request, are we adding those together for the total amount for the project? Is that correct?
That's my understanding. The prior year balance is what is already encumbered and already set and programmed, and the request is what is being the addition to what is already approved.
Okay, so like Hillsborough train station, for example, I'm just looking at it because there's two numbers. That's like $1 million plus total.
Yes.
Okay.
And Caroline, as a
Yes.
reminder, the SharePoint has the multi-year and CIP. So, maybe we want to, and I'm going to share my screen if we want. After, you're comfortable with your question, I think what Meg was, actually, no, Meg was talking about the new projects. But if you go on the SharePoint and you'll see that there's the updated multi-year and CIP summaries where all the projects are listed, all the prior year projects. So that can help answer Doug's question on, for example, Go Triangle on one project that's 18,702. That might be a prime choice for Go Triangle to shut down. So it's all on the SharePoint. It's been on there for a while. So I just wanted to give that PSA again.
And Stephen, let me clarify, and correct me and help me clarify this. Between now and March, if the money the column that you see, the prior year balance, if y'all are still getting reimbursements this fiscal year, or you anticipate closing them out this year, we would like to revise this to show that, hey, that prior year balance is either a closed out project or the amount is reduced, and as it has already been reimbursed or whatever needs to be changed. And then in preparation for revising this plan, when we get the revised plan done in like March, I think. So
I wouldn't update prior year balance no matter what. I would update if they need less money in FY 26 as part of the recommended plan, then I would update. But I wouldn't because some of this like 1,000,004 that might have already been spent. That's prior year balance from before a point in time. So if new
Yeah.
invoices came in November, December, January, that wouldn't be included. That's just a kind of, I think what Nish did here is he highlighted only FY 26 was the driver. So these are all the capital projects. Any of these FY 26 projects in blue are it looks like actually, I'm not even sure actually. What is the blue and the yellow actually, Nish?
I mean, there's supposed to be the increase, any change in the increase. The yellow is supposed to be actual new projects, because I don't know why this bus
Okay.
purchase is a yellow because it has prior year balance. I mean, the yellow should only be the ones that have information in
Yeah.
the
And the
yellow column. So
1855 is what threw me off.
yeah,
But but anything with the blue, I mean, so for example, Hillsborough, you had going into this year 416,000, and you're
Can't
adding
hear
for
you.
another 686.
we can't hear you. Or can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
You're a little
Yes,
quiet.
Steve, that was hard
Okay.
to hear, but I think you're asking to clarify, yes, we had the previous balance of 416 and we were asking for an additional amount.
Okay.
So
Can I finish my questions?
Yeah.
Okay. So that was my first question, was just to clarify that. That makes sense. Thank you. My second question is understanding how these fit into the model. If they fit, and making sure that we have enough. And then I think, as Meg suggested, I just think for anything new or increased, I think we should go through and review those, and I think approve them, because everything else has been approved in the transit plan, right? Except for things that have additional or brand new projects, right?
Yeah. You look at the original, you'll see the draft that has a lot of white ones. Those white ones are not part of this list. They're already approved and already funded and already modeled.
Okay. And then my last question is, Stephen, I just wanted to make sure you saw my email from earlier today.
Email from earlier today. Oh, I saw it. Yeah. So I think was it the one about Priscilla with
It was the version
version
9 spreadsheet. Yes.
Yeah, Priscilla, I'll ask Priscilla to opine a little more. I know the goal is the discussion we had was that if you look inside the MyOp and CIP that's in SharePoint, she was supposed to verify all those we talked about this last Friday actually, as a group. All the project sheets were supposed to match that. So my understanding was that everything that she put in matched what was on that MyOpa CIP. It sounds like Caroline had different projects on that. So Priscilla, I'm not sure if you ever circled back with Caroline. I know it was something you and Darlene were working on, or where there's a disconnect. But I did see it, but I was kind of
And just to
waiting on
add, I think
Priscilla to
Christina and
opine.
Carver also sent a similar email.
Yeah, so I honestly, I'm not sure, Caroline. That's the first time I heard. My understanding was that they did match, so that's something I'll find out from Priscilla.
Yeah, I'm a
unless she
little
knows.
confused too. I mean, we've talked about this like literally 5 times now. And I don't want to touch them because I don't want to, go in and disturb other people's work. But what we've discussed is that projects that already had funding that's rolled over should not have the project sheets, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I agree. I don't
Okay.
know. Honestly, I just don't know where the disconnect is, to be honest.
All right. So, I mean, it seems to me that would impact your modeling, because if we're not asking for $8 million, obviously. Oh, you're muted, Stephen. Stephen, you're muted.
Thank you. I get that, Caroline.
Okay.
I'm not using those version sheets
Okay.
to do the model. What I'm using
Okay.
is the multi-year and the CIP to update it. The versioning sheets are really there to help the staff working group administration for them to publish the document. So like to your point, the BRT only has 8 million total. Doesn't have 8 million previously and another 8 million. There's no
That's right.
correlation. So that
Okay.
was the whole point, is the version that
Okay.
should have matched the MIAP. Now, to answer your question on the model,
Mhm.
everything that's in the MIAP and the CIP, it does fit.
Okay.
We have a low point in FY 28 of 2.6 million. That's
Mhm.
obviously excess liquidity. So we have all the money, we have all that's
Okay.
encumbered. We have obviously the financial 5% and the 90 days. And then the year after, we have a 2.8 million. So we're getting low, but
Mhm.
we are theoretically, every project that's in the MIOP and
Okay.
CIP does fit, but that's not tax district saying these are good projects or not. That's just saying
I
that it
understand.
fits.
Yes,
So,
that was the question. And I think it
Yep.
would just be helpful, like just thinking moving forward, to know if there is like excess funding going into this process instead of just sort of like blindly throwing things at the plan and like guessing, like if we
Yeah.
could have an idea going into this process, if there is some additional funding, then I think we could have a more informed conversation about, is there room for things, or just, figuring out maybe new projects or things that were unfunded in previous transit plans, just kind of something to inform those conversations would be
Yeah,
helpful.
I think when we do the kickoff, I do kind of show a chart that shows where we ended last year. But to your point, I know this is a long process and there's
Yeah,
a lot of meetings and a lot of forgetfulness. And in all honesty, this one kind of snuck up too.
sure.
But going forward, I'll continue doing that. But I think what we'll do is
Okay.
every month or so, I'll work with the staff working group administration on making sure that we have something more beef, let's just say, on the
Yeah.
agenda that at least kind of shows a graph that shows where the excess liquidity is and things like that. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Caroline.
Yeah, I
Any
also
other-
sent a quick follow-up email, and Stephen, I can circle back to your team. I'm pleased to say that what I saw earlier, I don't think the difference is quite as big, but it does look like part of one project hasn't been included. So I'll circle back to you and we can go through those numbers. Thanks.
Yeah, and I apologize again, Tina, because I know that you work very closely with the team, so I just am not sure where the disconnect happened. That's something we'll look at in tax district administration, but yeah. So we'll make sure that we have an updated version that matches what's on there, just to make sure at this point, just to make sure everybody just has a record of it going to next year.
And Caroline did make a good point that in the next year's process, we will start with having what the fund balance is going to be and what resource we have to use before we start drafting anything. Meg, I think you had one question, or Caroline, if you have any other questions.
Nope. No other questions. Thank you.
Just go through the projects, right?
Meg, you
Yeah, I thought it would just be nice for,
Yeah.
probably in this case, Jay, to just run through quickly, just boom, 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 and just so we all know.
And if there's anything that needs to be removed, if we could know that, then it would help us update the draft plan as the next item. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, certainly. So this first one, Nish, as you mentioned in your comments a moment ago, I think this one should be blue. There's a increase over what the FY 26 value was in last year's CIP. This is start accounting for Go Triangle's level buying program. And that value for 26 is 350,000. Last year's plan had a number smaller than that for this year.
Understood. We'll make that change.
This next one, this is likely an expense that would start at the end of towards the end of fiscal 26. The Wake Bus plan is on cycle to start this year. Last year, if folks recall, we included a regional component from both Durham and Orange, just so that we could have one set of data looking at our regional market analysis. And then, the value of the actual short range transit update for Go Triangle that's attributable to Orange. So that request is in here, similar amount to what we had requested back in 21, which I think is why this has a 21 number.
Nice.
This next one is the bus operations and maintenance facility at Nelson Road. This is, I believe the 26 value is consistent, but there is an increase in future years. We shifted the construction or the cost curve out by a little. So that resulted in future year dollars changing. This next one, this is the Regional Transit Center or Triangle Mobility Hub. That 140,000, I think had been budgeted in a prior year, but it is, a new allocation to the project in FY26. But it should be consistent with what we had in the model last time.
Yes.
For 25 or in the 25 CIP. This next one is, and I think I've mentioned this one before to the group. This is the first tranche of funding for a capital project that was included in the Orange Transit Plan for bus stops and some transit signal priority other transit improvements on Fordham Boulevard. So this is the first funding of that. The Orange Transit Plan had that as two separate capital projects, but we're proposing to put that together as one. But it would include bus stops with and transit access with a particular focus at the intersection of Fordham and Ephesus Church there by Eastgate, and then also evaluation of some improvements along the corridor with a focus at Manning Drive.
And this was in the approved transit plan.
That's right.
And
of course, Chapel
consolidating
Hill
or
Transit
requesting
has
those?
Go ahead.
Sorry. Are you consolidating or requesting that 500,000?
Yes.
Oh. You're doing both, consolidating and requesting?
500,000, yes.
Okay.
The transit plan had $1 million in 26, but we're only requesting 500,000 this year.
Understood.
So those future dollar values would come from, or future value of that project would be in a future year. The other thing, and I've mentioned this before, but Caroline will want to work closely with your effort to make sure that we're coordinated with the high capacity study that
Yes.
Chapel Hill Transit will be working on.
That's right. That's a good reminder to make sure that we have that. Thank you. Yeah, definitely.
I think that's all of Go Triangles.
Sorry, just a reminder on the Fordham project and the plan. Is that the one that is currently had some planning efforts around it, around the Legmans, or is that a different location?
No, that one is separate. This would be Fordham south of the Franklin split. So, from Ephesus Church down towards Manning Drive. And to remind folks, the Orange Transit Plan has a realignment of Route 400 to Fordham Boulevard. So this is doing the necessary infrastructure work in terms of bus stops and evaluating the corridor so that we can support that transit plan project when it comes into play in the future. Yes, Josh, to answer your question, that the bus stops at Eastgate were funded as a separate project, and those are, I think it's 75% design.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And and I believe the town had recently provided comments. If you've not yet gotten responses to those comments, we can follow up and make sure that you get those.
Yeah, I think that project's in a good place. Was just getting a little bit clearer in location.
Understood.
The next 5 are Carboroughs.
Yes, thanks, Nish. So the first one is the Morgan Creek Greenway. This has been one of the original, you can tell from the date of the number at the beginning, this has been one of the original submittals through the transit plan. We've been using transit funds largely to contribute toward the local match. This is a federally funded project, so we've been using some for design. We have an updated engineer's estimate for construction, which we hope to get underway this spring. And so we wanted to be sure to have enough money to be able to move that project forward. This is one of these ones that has lingered a little bit, and we're eager to see it move forward. Similarly, for South Greensboro Street for the sidewalk, we've been using funds toward the local match. We've been actively seeking reimbursement for both of these, Morgan Creek and South Greensboro Street. And we're anticipating that increase working with the design engineer and are trying to keep things moving without delay. The Estes Drive project is the next project that we will initiate. This is also a federally funded project. This is the one that needs a little bit of work. We had originally identified two separate projects, one for a corridor study and then one for the actual bike ped improvements. We're suggesting we might combine those into one project. Still to do the corridor study component, but just to, it seems like from a financial point of view, it's just cleaner to combine those into one. So there's not quite enough money in this one now that it's combined. We are working with DOT to get updated estimates for this. We've gone through the express design process, and so I'm also trying to make sure that we will have enough money in the kitty so that we can begin the design process, hopefully this spring. The two projects in yellow, the connector sidewalk, this would go from our new, the Drakeford Library Complex, which should open February. I hope people will come to the opening. It should be a great thing. We have identified an opportunity to create a kind of a meandering sidewalk that would go from Roberson Street, which is one of the entrances for the library, through an existing parking area up to East Main Street. This also provides an opportunity to create a significant improvement to the existing bus stop there, which is the stop both for Chapel Hill Transit as well as Go Triangle for the 405 to Durham. So there's an opportunity to put in a new sidewalk pad and eventually, thank you for that support, eventually a better shelter and hopefully an enhanced shelter. So we see some real opportunity with this project. This is one that was included in the updated Orange County Transit Plan as an unfunded priority. And then finally, the West Main Street sidewalk. This is to cover that one block in front of O2 Fitness in Carborough between Fidelity and Poplar Streets. This is one actually that was also one of the original projects for Carborough back in 2018. We simply hadn't moved it forward yet, and we are now interested in trying to advance this. So we've both of these projects would be standalone projects funded through the transit plan rather than being a match for a larger federally funded project. So I'll stop there. I'm happy to answer questions if you have them.
Tina, that 203 connector sidewalk, is that the one that we've discussed with the bus stop there?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just spaced out for a second.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
We would have a little bit of money for design and a little bit for construction and likely some acquisition costs working in partnership with that property owner.
Okay. Gotcha. Cool.
Any questions, concerns for Carborough or in Go Triangle? Next two are Chapel Hill Transits.
Yeah, so this first one is actually just combining two projects. So it's two projects that were included in the adopted transit plan, not asking for any additional funding. It's just merging them so that we have a little more flexibility on how the funding can be used. And then the second one is a new project, new request for, I think, up to 6 DC fast chargers for battery electric buses. We have 7 more that are being delivered. So we will at that point have far more buses than charging capacity. And if we can't charge them, it really limits our ability to use them. So that is the ask, just to purchase those chargers. I think we have other funding to do to do some of the other site work required. The hookups are, I think, already done for the electric, the upgrades. It's just kind of the chargers themselves.
That's impressive staying ahead of that. A lot of agencies are struggling to have that infrastructure in place.
We're one of them.
Good job.
What?
Caroline.
We're getting 5 EV buses and we don't have the infrastructure.
Yeah, well, I mean, and this is like a lack of, or maybe a short-sightedness in some of the funding programs, right? Is that there's a lot of funding for the buses, but not so much funding to figure out how to keep them on the road always. So, it's
Great job. Thank you so much for
it's
the
a
effort.
challenge.
That's
Yeah,
it,
just, hoping none of them catch on fire this year. Fingers crossed, 2025.
Awesome. Great job. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised to hear that other agencies are facing the same problem getting EV vehicles and not having the infrastructure, because I was told the opposite by DOT.
No, I know I knew someone in Bloomington, Indiana. They got like 12 buses delivered, had them ready to wrap and everything, and the utility came out and said, "Oh, the transformers are on back order. It's going to be 18 months."
Oh,
Oh
wow.
man. Yikes.
Okay.
Well, I will say this is kind of like we will be at capacity at this point until our facility expansion is completed.
So
There's
that's a
just
high
no more
priority
room.
project. Yeah, so that's a high priority.
Yeah,
Understood.
yeah. I mean, the facility expansion will be a higher priority at some point. But I don't know. We'll see what happens with funding for EV buses
Thank-
over the next 4 years.
Yeah, yeah.
Could dry
yeah.
up.
Thank you. Any questions for Chapel Hill? Hillsboro's last. Next, sorry.
Yeah, you all don't hear much from us. So here's what we've got going on. The train station bus stop improvements may be replaced if the multimodal transit facility moves forward. We won't need stops at the train station, but until that is certain, we're asking to set aside funds to provide bus stop infrastructure at the new train station. Speaking of which, the next project is additional funding for the train station project. As we continue to get delayed by various processes of the railroad and North Carolina Railroad, the project has dragged on and the cost estimates are continuing to escalate. I will note that the request for transit tax funds is leveraged 2-to-1 with town funds and 10-to-1 with federal funds. So this is a small portion of the overall cost of the project. And then on the Ridge Rock Greenway, we are finally to a point. We've gone through a second feasibility study, chosen an alignment that has minimal interaction with the railroad corridor, which will bring the cost down of the project by several $1,000,000. And so we're requesting a total of $2 million over the next 5 years from the transit tax. Again, that's going to be leveraged 7-to-1 with local funds. So I'm happy to answer any question about the project.
So I guess we need to put an asterisk on this one. So it'd be what you said, 2 million over 5 years, not just 1 year. So the whole million is not just in 26. I just want to get an understanding.
So the 26 request is 1 million, and there's a 28 request for 1 million.
Oh, okay. So it's split up over that year. So 26 to 28 to 28 to whenever you finish the project. Okay.
Yeah.
Matt, could you speak a little bit more to the transit benefits derived from this Ridge Walk Greenway? I'm not familiar with where this is.
Sure. The Ridge Walk Greenway connects downtown Hillsborough to the train station, and then through the Collins Ridge neighborhood across 85 into the Waterstone neighborhood. So it'll be a direct pedestrian connection from UNC hospitals all the way to downtown Hillsborough. And it provides both an alternative transportation corridor for bicycle and pedestrian access, but also provides a link for folks to get to that transit facility, whether it's a train station or the train station and multimodal transit hub.
And just to add to what he said, those 3 projects are also going to be helped in leveraging a RAISE grant for that regional multi-mobility hub that we're working on with a lot of partners into converting that train station and all these agencies to provide transit in that area. The Ridgewell Greenway would be a great pedestrian access connecting, like I said, downtown Hillsborough to this site.
Yeah,
guess I'm not-
I definitely don't disagree that it is a, strong multimodal connection for sure. I just would want to know more about like the direct transit connections, I think. The raise grant you have already, or this is something you would apply for?
Pre-planning right now we're working on pre-planning and please just to add, there is a bus stop at the Hillsborough downtown near the Weaver Street Park. There's 2 of them on Church Street that it also connects the Hillsborough Circulator to this area as well.
Does it connect with pedestrian infrastructure?
Yes, there's sidewalks all around downtown Hillsborough already.
But does it connect to the Rich Walk portion?
Yeah, it's part of the connection to River Park. The River Park is the pedestrian park that goes along that area.
Yeah, so there's an existing Riverwalk Greenway that is the major east-west connector to town that connects from Eno River State Park to Okanichi Mountain. This will be the north-south connection that connects from downtown down to Waterstone, which is just north of I-40, the southern edge of town. And again, it's 60% of our population is between 85 and 40, and that's the major corridor that this greenway will travel through, connecting back to that multimodal transit hub.
Yeah, and I guess
So
on a
is this
similar
a-
point to the, go ahead.
Will people be able to use this in dark? Or is it just a daylight sunrise to sunset trail?
Currently, we are planning to have this be a lit trail because it is being treated as a transportation asset and not a recreation amenity.
Yeah.
I just want to also be clear, if anybody did not look at the CIP, which again, as a plug, is on SharePoint, there is also another million in FY28 that Matt put in. So it is part of the low point of the model. It's in the model, but we have the million for 26, a break in 27, and then there is $1 million for FY28. So just wanted to put out that PSA.
Yeah, on a similar point to the raised question, are there any federal funds being leveraged for this project?
Right now, we're just doing a pre-planning. Right now, we're putting together a package for the future, the next year's NOFO. Right now, we're just doing pre-planning.
Just to be clear, the federal funds will be requested for the multimodal transit facility, which is would be at the center of the greenway. The greenway itself will be funded through local funds, private funds, and hopefully transit tax funds.
So does this require, this isn't in the plan.
Right.
So I guess like, how do we know it has a transit benefit? And to what extent does it have a transit benefit? And then what's the procedure? Since it's not in the plan, is this an amendment or how does that work? An amendment to the plan? Yeah, a map would be helpful. I actually know this area pretty well, but I just can't visualize it.
Let's, let me see if I had to stop sharing my screen and get you the view of that plan, if y'all don't mind.
Yeah, I'm happy to share the feasibility study that has the utilization, transit benefits, and map, if y'all will find that helpful. I don't know the process for amending the plan. This is our first request.
Yeah, that was actually directed towards Nish. I don't know what it is either.
I'll have to go back and look at the amendment process and go through
Yeah.
that, but let me see if I can get you a better view of the site and area to get y'all a
Mhm.
better
Yeah, I
understanding.
think a question too is, and this is, not exclusive to any one project that's being raised, but I think all the projects that are, including our own, that's asking for, funding is, I know that there were unfunded priorities in the last plan that carried over from 17 that haven't been funded either. So I know that right now we don't have a process or procedure in place for determining priority, but that's just something to think about too.
This
Yeah,
is
that's a
your,
good point, Caroline. We were careful to put those unfunded priorities in there to demonstrate the priorities. Um,
that was the
yeah.
priorities then. I think priorities may have shifted and changed, so not sure, but I will look into the transit plan portion, and get back to everybody. But in terms of this project, and Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, this is NC 80, Churton Street, going south from Hillsborough, Orange Grove Road. It comes into Churton Street. Collins Ridge is a subdivision that's going here by Sports Endeavor south here. And this is the future train station along this train tracks. This facility here would be the new train station and hopefully the future regional multi-mobility hub. And the Ridgewalk Greenway, this is part of the Hillsborough Circulator, the 420, other transit routes on South Churton Street. And it would provide transit access connection between this and the stops that are here in downtown Hillsborough.
Does this include the portion that crosses I-40 as well?
No,
Uh,
the southern terminus of the project is at Cates Creek Parkway. And so it connects into the Waterstone neighborhood, which is connected via sidewalk down to UNC hospitals. And so the southernmost access point is the south side of Waterstone Drive.
Okay, so this does include the crossing of I-40.
No, it's north of I-40. It does include the
Waterstone is
crossing of
here.
I-85.
Waterstone is here.
Sorry, 85. My bad.
Yeah, 85. It would go around 85. Yes.
Now, I've dropped into the chat the feasibility study and the benefits analysis that was performed. This is an adopted priority in our comprehensive sustainability plan, and is the town's #1 transportation project.
Any further questions, concerns? And I do owe everybody a look back at how the transit plan would be changed if necessary, as necessary.
Yeah, I think that needs to be a big conversation, just how we balance, what had been unfunded priorities and
And especially as priorities have changed over the years.
well, ours might not have.
Others may have.
On light rail? Well, 2022. But I
Well,
think it would be
the last plan didn't have light rail in it, Doug, I don't think.
I know. I'm being.
Yes. I think it would be useful to understand from our electeds, especially that priorities have shifted, and especially with a model looking at a low point, what other priorities may have been deprioritized in order to make this happen.
Very good point. And look at the model as well. Because I think the model is needed if any changes are done to the plan itself. So the model would need to be revisited as well.
Caroline, in your old role, do you have, or does anybody here have those projects that were, put to the side, or the horizon, whatever we want to call it, less prioritized?
It's in the plan itself. It's in the transit plan. I mean, there's an
Yeah, they're in the
unfunded list.
plan.
Oh, really? Okay.
They're in the plan
okay.
itself. They're unfunded. There's an unfunded list of those projects.
So yeah, that probably is a good exercise, Nish. If I guess as staff working group administration, if you guys want to put that together, I'm not sure how that impacts this over here, but like I did say, there's still another 1,028,000. So I don't want to speak for Matt, but I would assume that they're probably kind of rolled together. with the assumption that, if you're approving one, you're going to probably want to approve the other. But I mean, that is a good point. We probably should understand what got punted or put to the side or put to the horizon before, everything is green lighted.
Yeah, I think 2 million is a big enough number that I don't personally feel comfortable unilaterally signing off on that along with Josh for Chapel Hill. I would want to, get some input from some other folks just to see, and certainly I think take a look at, what we had prioritized previously. And then I think just sort of too, I definitely want to take a look at those, the documents. Thanks for sharing those, Matt. And then there's something else I was thinking. I don't remember what it was. It'll come to me. Oh, what would happen if you were unable to secure the RAISE grant?
Like I said, that's just for the regional multi-mobility hub, the area that's all for all transit agencies here, and we're just replanning right now. I think a letter has gone out to everybody to be stakeholders or participants in this pre-planning process that we're working with WSP. So hopefully we'll be
Okay,
able to.
but what would you use this money for if you didn't receive the RAISE grant, is my question.
This is the Ridgewalk Greenway. This is Hillsboro's request for just the Ridgewalk Greenway itself to improve transit access to two areas, the train station itself and the possibility of, because it already is going to have transit as part of the Hillsboro Circulator, as we improve transit access to the train station itself, we're still going to be providing transit access to that train station and downtown as part of the Hillsboro Circulator. So this area will already have it, whether we get the RAISE grant or not. It's just a matter of improving transit access through this project, the downtown Hillsboro and the train station. The RAISE grant is for a bigger project for a multi-mobility hub, and that includes PART and a lot of other agencies that are participating in that process.
So the proposed RAISE grant would not have any multimodal facilities that would benefit Ridgewalk.
They would. That's why we're working on the pre-planning right now to see how that multimodal facilities would be incorporated into this process.
Sorry, bike ped facilities that would be included in the.
Yeah, they'll be part of that RAISE grant package because we're also working standard to the bike ped plan. So it's all uses within this multi-mobility hub.
But they are separate projects that can happen without each other.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Coordinated but separate.
Coordinated but separate. Hillsboro's Ridgewalk Greenway, RAISE grant, Orange County. Coordinated but separate.
And then not to complicate it further, but it's actually 3 projects that function independently but are co-located. The train station, the multimodal transit facility, and the Ridgewalk Greenway. They all intersect at the same place.
Yes.
So is that a pretty good review of the proposed work program?
Well, these are just the new projects. The work program itself is the review. Is the release next? Is the next item.
Right. So do we want to talk about releasing the proposed work plan for comment? I mean, it'd be great to have a motion to do that.
Aren't there some
well, hold
operating
on.
projects? Yeah.
Yeah, were
yeah,
there
right.
any increases in operating requests?
These are the only things that are requested. That's all I put. It was a red, yellow, and blue list.
But we have the next page of the packet.
This is the next page. Sorry, my mistake. I apologize. This is the next request. This is the next page. Missed it. Yeah, these are the operating. The first list was the capital. These are the operating.
All right, and the color here, it looks like yellow is indicating something different.
I need to remove and Stephen called me earlier. These 2 yellow ones from Chapel Hill Transit. I need to remove them because there's nothing in there. I need to apologize for including them. I need to remove those 2. I don't think I'm missing anything else that I'm aware of.
It looks like the only brand new projects are the 2 Go Triangle and then the Chapel Hill Transit QA and QC technician.
Yeah,
and
and
the
that's
others.
not new. That's not new. The TAP one's not new. It's just an increase in funding.
Yeah, the top 800 one is just an increase. The Route 800 is an increase. You said the TAP is not new. TAP needs to.
No, it's just an increase. It's funded this year. It's an increase.
So I need to turn that to blue then. I need to fund that into. Okay, that was my mistake.
That's an increase that falls in our normal 2.5.
Yeah, these
Above
are
the
the
2.5.
the above
Yeah.
the 2.5. Yeah, the blue are the above the 2.5.
It would be helpful, I think, to see what the original projection was. Otherwise, I don't know like how much. I don't know what the change is, I guess, or the difference is. Just looking at these numbers. Does that make sense? Like that could have been $5 and now it's 82,500. I know it wasn't, but there's no context.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can somebody just read off the amount for the sake of this conversation for 800? What was the original
Yeah,
request?
I can speak to these for Go Triangle. So Route 800, it is a increase from FY25 over 2.5%, but in the FY25 multi-year operating program, this was the amount we put in for fiscal 26. The reason for that is the improvements were funded half year in fiscal 25 and then full year in fiscal 26. So that's why it comes in over the half year. To remind folks what this project is, this is restoring some of the hours that were on the 800S on Route 800. And then this will support our planned improvements, which will bring improve reliability on Route 800, and then improve operating span on Route 805. And those are coming in March. So it's a little bit less than a half year in 25, but in any case, the reason for the increase is the FY26 being a full year.
And our formula that doesn't account for that. I mean, that seems that it should annualize it and then increase it in the future. Just FYI, that's my thought anyway.
In any case, that's why that one shows up here.
Yeah.
Meg, as you mentioned, TAP was, and Steve just sent us an image of the 25.
Thanks, Stephen.
Yeah, so TAP was budgeted at 40,000 and is now being requested at, I need to close my window.
82. Do you want me to speak to that, Jay? Or
yeah, go ahead, Meg.
So when we submitted the project sheet for 25, we had done some analysis based on demographics and ridership for budgeting purposes, and even stated in the project sheet that we would continue to evaluate and review and then submit based on actuals. So now, we've had it going on for several months and we're monitoring it, and we have a better sense of actuals and then made projections for future year. And this is consistent. The usage program is consistent with and under like the ridership that would generally be eligible for this. So this is this is the projected increase or request for next year based on actuals now, rather than projected budget based on the best data we had at the time, which were just demographics and and ridership. Excuse me. And we've done the same thing in the other counties. And we will continue to adjust these budgets with actuals as we move along, because that's how we'll be doing reimbursements. So if we saw some change for some reason, which for example in Orange could be, we opened the TAP enrollment prior to UNC pushing the UNC Go Pass. So we may have picked up a couple of passengers who may have qualified for TAP and instead of UNC, for example, and that should eventually get fixed. So things like that, there could be, movement downward or upward if more people used it. But these are probably pretty good numbers right now because it's on about 5 months of actuals, 4 months of actuals. Okay, Jay, I'm done. Thank you.
And this last one is related to the light rail closeout. So much of the remaining balance in light rail had been the primary use of that had been property upkeep and maintenance. So what we're instead proposing is, rather than keeping that lump sum of cash sitting in carryover from capital, is to close that out, return it to fund balance, and then establish a new line item for property operations and maintenance, as well as bus stop maintenance, repair, asset replacement, that type of thing.
That's
I think that's all go triangles. The top three. And I'll change that number 2 to blue, sorry. Next, Chapel Hill Transits.
Yeah, so this was like a reallocation for the two that have $0 down below that are in yellow, the NS and the D, and then the transit planner 1 and bus stop amenities technician. We basically took a year of operating funding for the NS and D improvements that I don't think we'll be able to implement due to staff shortages, and repurposed that for some additional funding for 2 positions that were funded last year. So it's a, zero. There's no
And I'll-
fiscal impact for that one.
And I apologize, and I'll remove those 2 yellow ones. I apologize.
It's
for
okay.
having
I mean,
to-
they were changed, so it's,
Yeah.
I think it's just reflecting the change. And then there is one new request for a year for, this is a onboard technology QA/QC tech. So someone who can troubleshoot and ensure that our operators are logging into our CAD ABL systems, and just kind of, keeping up with making sure that all of the technology that we have on board is operating the way it's supposed to, so that we can get the data out of it that it's meant to pull, and that real time and all that is being reported accurately. It's a pretty big need for us right now, and something that's kind of being managed through our one poor dispatch person who is already overworked and underpaid.
Carolyn, can I ask a quick question on your positions?
Mhm.
Will you continue them, and how?
It kind of depends. So we initially, like the transit planner 1 and the bus stop amenities technician, we had only asked for a year of funding. That kind of helps establish it, and then we're usually able to work it into our budget in the town. But we knew we weren't going to be able to implement the improvements on the NS and the D that were planned. So we just extended that out for 4 years, and then I think we'll probably take a look at it at that point and see if we're going to just roll it into our own budget, or if we want to continue funding the positions. The new one is sort of, I'm not sure. I think we might have to see how it goes. If it's the right position for what we need. But as of right now, it's just 1 year.
Yeah, and I'll be interested to hear how that does go, because this is an important
I'm
role.
sure it's I'm sure it's a challenge for, it puts a lot of responsibility and additional duties on, operators and people who should be paying attention to other things. So
Carolyn, this is just a quick question, and just for clarification, I think you already answered that. I just want clarification. The first 2, the planner 1 and the technician, you said they're 5 years, or?
Well, it's so we had funding last year, so they were funded through they're funded through this year, FY25. We took the funding, I think it was just 1 year of funding for operating for the NS and D, and we were able to use that to pay for 4 additional years for both of those positions.
Oh, so 90 is for the full 4 years, or is it per year?
No, that's per year.
Okay, for 4 years.
For the 2 that are in blue, yeah. I think the QA/QC was just 1 year, if I remember.
Thank you. I just need
Yeah.
a clarification, that's all.
Yep. But the two existing positions, like I said, that's, there's no fiscal impact. It's just moving money from one project to another within operating.
Thank you. And the other, I think the next two are also yours?
The other two are actually reductions. So those numbers went down, they didn't go up. Again, those were just, we took, I think, again, we anticipate not being able to implement those service improvements at least until the second half of FY26. So that also got rolled into that like bucket of money that we moved around for those positions.
So ICE is supposed to be a reduction and service
It is a
expansion.
reduction. So we had it's only a half year of funding for the CW and the HS. The other half year of funding we rolled into that bucket with the NS and the D and moved it around a little bit.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think the last two is the CW and the HS. They're also reductions?
No, those are the ones I was just talking about.
Oh, okay.
The other ones, I don't know why the other ones are on there. We didn't ask for any changes for service expansion or ICEs. I have no idea why they're there.
I don't know why they were blue. I just copied it. I just copied and pasted the blue one.
Yeah.
I don't know, for some reason it was blue and I just copied and pasted it.
No worries. Yeah, those are just whatever. I mean, the ICEs, we got what we got. And the service expansion is whatever was planned in the adopted transit plan.
Carolyn, that's actually a good point with increased cost of existing service. Probably between draft and recommended, we are going to update that amount. But like you said, that's all formulaic. So
Yeah.
that'll be in the recommended part. So
Okay. Yeah, it is what it is. I don't know how it got rolled in there.
Okay, we'll clear that up. We'll straighten that out. I think that's all.
So I think the
Chapel
rest
Transits.
are you. Yeah.
For Orange County, this was my initial scrubbing of the 4 project sheets that we submitted earlier. I think when the December meeting that we had, these were blown really high. So this is my initial scrubbing. I may need to have to go back and revisit these again just to make sure I may have used the wrong cost per hour. I got to go back and check, but I hope everyone understands, and thank you for the opportunity to clean some of this up a little. So I just got to go back and make sure I have initial scrubbing. That these are still a little bit of an increase, but they're the same as last year as approved, the 2.5. They're supposed to be the approved 2.5. I might have used the 91, 94 instead of what I'm supposed to, but I'll go back and check.
So Nish, all that to say these aren't an increase over 2.5% over
They
25?
shouldn't be. I'm gonna go back and check, make sure, because like I said, the original one that we submitted back in December, these are really wrong. So these should be the correct ones, but I'll go back and check and make sure. And if these should be these shouldn't be the increase. They shouldn't be in this table, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
So Nish, I guess the question that is, so are you saying, because I think you're asking this meeting at the end, and maybe I'm wrong, I don't want to jump because I know it's part of the agenda, but I assume you're asking for this to be public release, but are you saying that, so any amount downward, would be fine, but obviously if it's an increase, I think the partners are going to want to know that before it's
What the increase is, yes.
publicly released.
Yeah.
Okay.
These should be in this
I just
table.
want to make sure of that.
Yeah, these like the like what Caroline was saying, the ISIS shouldn't be in this table. Service expansion shouldn't be in this table. These 4, based on my cleaning up, shouldn't be in this table. They should be in that other table within the annual work program as a white.
Just
So I was
with the
trying to
regular
look at what you
2.5%.
have, Nish,
Well, if you look at
compared
the
to
chart
the
that I
graphic
put in
that
the
Steve
text.
sent. It looks like Hillsborough Circulator 2.0 matches and should be white. The other 3 do look like they're showing up above the 2.5%, so those should probably be blue, at least at the current values.
Okay. So there may be small increases, but I'll have to go back and check what the actual increases. Do you have the? I mean, I might have to go back and look at the full sheet and see what the values are.
But I thought
I
what
have it in
Nish
front
was,
of me, Nish.
I thought what Nish was saying was that the calculations were incorrect.
Yeah.
Meaning he thinks what should be in here is only 2.5% over 25.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry.
So that
These are supposed to be the 2.5. These numbers that you see in front of you should be
they
the
most
2.5.
definitely are not. They most
Okay,
definitely are not, except for
so-
that third one.
Yeah,
Okay, so-
Hillsborough Circulator is good. Continuation of transit services fixed route, the 2.5% would be 155,981.
So it's 30,000 more.
The-
So it's around 30,000
Yeah.
more.
Yeah, so that one's small. The rural route, the 2.5% is 364,672.
So that's 90,000 more.
Yeah. And then mobility on demand, the 2.5% is 352,696.
So that's 100,000 more. Okay. So these would be the requests for that small increase. So 60, 90 plus 100, 250 at 350. That's the request, is the increases is the cost.
Yeah.
But if you think you used the wrong cost per hour,
Let me go back and look at my original project sheets that I submitted.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know that we need to solve it now, but I just wanted to flag that I do think that the values here are
There would be a
in
request for
excess
an
of the
increase
2.5.
if
Yeah.
I did my math right.
So
I said better.
I am a little concerned that we don't have a final work plan to review that we can recommend,
Yeah, I agree.
which I
Okay.
felt like was the purpose of this meeting, was to, this was all meant to be finalized by this point. Because I don't think we can recommend something that we haven't seen. I would also maybe offer a friendly amendment to maybe hold on that the Hillsborough Greenway funding until we can have a conversation with our elected officials and some other folks so that they have a heads up before this is going out to the public. So those are my thoughts as to where we are right now.
Would it be possible to have like a 30-minute meeting, say end of the week or mid-week next week? Just so we could get these costs, just to confirm the numbers and maybe get a sense from Stephen's team if it does appear that all of these are fundable within the current model. That way we would be a little bit more comfortable putting this out, recommending that this go out for public notice.
Stephen, just to confirm, I think y'all have ran the model with these numbers, correct?
Yeah, so
The model's been
exactly.
run with
So,
these numbers
So
already.
as long as the numbers go down, we won't have an issue. So the concern will be is if the numbers go up. I haven't heard anything where numbers would go up though.
Yeah,
Well, I don't know, based on, unless it's your comment, Nish, but
Yeah,
yeah.
well, mine will go up a little bit because that one piece seems to be omitted, but
Yeah.
Well,
but
is
it's not
it
a huge
omitted from
amount.
this or is it, as long as it's not omitted from what was in the SharePoint on that MyOp and CIP sheet. Again, that's what we ran. I didn't really see what Nish is showing today. So whatever, again, I would say go into the SharePoint, what's in the MyOp and CIP sheet, that is the guts of the model. So as long as it's in that amount, and again, if you're not 100% sure, let me know, Tina, but I believe everything that you submitted should be in there. Again, don't refer to the version 9 stuff that Priscilla put up there. Or I guess with Nish is if you go into physical SharePoint right now, that would be what was in there.
Yeah,
Okay.
Steve, I think Tina, you're referring to the $106,000 for the Estes Road study, right?
Mainly, yes, yeah.
Yeah, and that is in the model. That's in what Steve has run.
Okay.
There's just not new funding for it, so that's why it's not. But we will combine those two projects in FY26. Right now, they're just kind of separated out.
Okay, because I'm not seeing that one listed and the amount isn't included. So I'll go back and double check my sheets and
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that I matched that spreadsheet you sent last Friday,
yes.
and yeah, all those numbers are in there. I think I had to up a couple, just a few $1,000s, but it was no big deal. So that just to make sure it matched, and we can for the recommended, we'll double check and And maybe I upped it a couple thousand too many, but yeah, we'll make sure for the recommended that it's all there too.
That's great. Yeah, I think for those of us who are starting to enter the budget season, it would be great to have a general sense of, it looks like these will be funded or definitely not. You know, obviously we don't have all the answers at this point, but just a general sense, I think will be really helpful for us.
We want to try to check in on next Wednesday at 1 o'clock. We at least get
Next Wednesday at 1 o'clock would be, I guess, ideal if everybody's available.
I am 100% not available.
When is
Sorry, not next
Okay.
week.
What about Thursday or Friday?
Next week I am full up, y'all. Like I just don't have room for this meeting again. I'll be honest with you. Is there a reason we can't approve this when it's finalized in February?
We need a release for review right now for
Okay,
the
but we don't
schedule.
have a final draft to release.
I know in Durham, we authorized release with some changes.
Yeah.
But we don't
But
even know
they're-
what those changes are yet.
And for Orange County, I'm going to look into my numbers, and that is our request. So that was my cleanup. So these are our actual requests. So there are no change to Orange County's numbers on this.
Wait a minute. Now I'm confused again. I thought you had to go back and change your cost
I'm looking at
priorities.
I'm looking at the project sheet now, and I'm going back and checking, did I do it correctly or did I do it right? And I have those numbers in front of me, and at least the sheet that I turned in, the cleaned up one.
And what is specifically being released to the public? Like a list that has no explanations or context? Like what is going out?
And let me share my screen again. It's in your.
I think Jay and Matt have had their hands up for quite a while too. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. That's the SharePoint link. Matt. Oh, Jay? Matt, it was first.
Yeah, I just wanted to, offer on at least our Ridgewalk study or our Ridgewalk project. Sorry, I'm looking at too many screens. We have some flexibility in terms of what years those requests are in. And so if there's an issue with the model and some constraints in FY26 or 28, I'm flexible in moving those requests to another year if that makes sense for the model. And that's notwithstanding the process question, but in terms of when that money would be needed to be plugged into the model, I'm flexible between FY26 and FY30.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. Model wise, doesn't matter because it's a capital project. But if the group wants more time to evaluate if the project's there, but we still want to keep it in the program, then I guess we can move it to 27, 28. But at the end of the day, moving up an amount out won't really impact the low point. It's the same low point, So I'll defer to you, but if you're comfortable with pushing it to 27 to 28, just so that doesn't hold anything up, then I think that's something that might, I think it'll help with what Caroline was concerned about, having to make a decision now, but at least give some time to discuss. But, to your point, at least it'll be in the CIP.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that. I'm conferring with our CIP. Our construction funding is in 29 and 30. So again, like 27 and 28 for initial design and engineering. We can reallocate some of our funds forward if the transit fund gets pushed backwards. So we can be flexible.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
in
mean,
reality,
the thing
though-
that just, I'm less concerned about like the funding, to be honest. Like, it sounds like it's available, I don't want to say that like I don't have any like, fundamental issue with considering the project. I think, Josh and I have to be able to provide a explanation for, how this funding, like how it was considered, what else was considered, that type of thing. And I just don't feel like we're prepared for that conversation. Like, we would want a little bit of extra time and really would need to better, I think, understand the transit benefits that derive from this versus, other possible projects that might be considered.
Yeah, I think
I
this one
guess
is
my
good.
question though on that though, Matt, would be, if you're saying in your CIP, you don't even have it for 28 or 29, then like, why is the Orange Transit Plan or 29, 30, why is the Orange Transit Plan putting it in 26, 27, or 28? Like, it should probably be in the CIP program for similar years as, unless it's not for like construction or use, maybe, I guess the whole point of this, of the Orange Transit Plan or any of the transit plans is to request the money for when you need it, not to just have it encumbered in advance. Because the whole thing that I know, and Doug's mentioned this previously, like, we want to avoid carrying over large swaths of money, because then the public is like, why are you carrying over large swaths of money every year? So, my thinking is if you're approving for something $1 million this year and $1 million in 28, the construction or whatever the main work's going to start in 26 and then 28. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if it's not a project for like 4 or 5 years out, I don't really see why the Orange Transit Plan would have it anything less than in the CIP before. That's just my thought process.
Yeah, and just to be clear, the construction funding is in 29 and 30, but the engineering and design starts in RCIP in 27. So 27 and 28 have funding allocated in RCIP.
And that's what and that's what the $1 million and $2 million is for?
Yes.
Engineering and design? Oh, okay.
So should we at least just push it back the 1 year to match them?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it matched at 27, so that way it's consistent with what Matt is doing, and when they're doing the work in 27, that way it'll match, and it's not in this it's not in this annual program, but in the next one. But you could program in the CIP right now as part of the process for FY 27 in the CIP for 27.
Yeah, I think that would definitely make me a lot more comfortable moving this forward.
Because that's the reimbursement doesn't start till you spend, and then you get reimbursed. If you're not spending until 27, you get reimbursed in 27. If that's okay, Matt, I mean, at least it'll
I'm
be
fine
in
with
the work
that, and I'm
program.
fine with process related questions. I will just sort of plant a flag, like, it is our transit priority. We have said that it's a transportation priority for the town, and we've judged its transit benefits in our project submission. And so, like, it's fine to question the process for how it gets in, but I don't think it's fair for this group to be debating the transit benefits for each member agency. That's not how everybody else is treated. And I want to be clear that I'll follow the process and amendments as needed. But each one of us submits projects that our community have advocated for. And
but they have to have a transit connection. Like, there needs to be a nexus that we can rationalize. Like, I hear you, and I'm like, I don't, again, like, it's not like, I think it's a good project. I think for us though, we have to be able to point to something that is transit related. And I like need something.
I've given you 3 plans where the transit connections are detailed.
And for Orange County, it's the Hillsborough Circulator, it's our Mobile on Demand, it's our demand response, and it's Orange County is a transit provider services for this area and this project. Orange County is the transit service. I mean, it can also provide connections to the Hill to Hill connector. It can provide transit for Go Triangle if it needs to access. I mean, and it's in the eventuality of being part of the race grant for PART and other agencies and Link Acta and everything. So we have a serious, significant transit connection to this Ridgewell Greenway in this area.
I think if we had this does seem to be a major investment of the transit tax money. I would like the Orange County Commissioners to reaffirm that this is a good use of transit tax money.
Yes. Understood.
Yes, similarly, and in a way, I'm kind of glad that a good project is the one to test this. But maybe this is the time to consider how do you do a small amendment to the plan, in between updates to add a new project, and maybe this is the pilot for figuring that out.
It's in our
There
governing
is a
documents and
process
now
for requesting amendments. I mean, we do it a lot. That
it's in
exists.
the transit plan amendment has a different process than the annual work program amendment, but it is in the governing documents.
Yeah, I think if the transit plan had included this back in 2022, be fully on board. If we can get it in the transit plan,
Yeah.
I'll be happy to support it.
And just to clarify what Caroline's question earlier is right now, the schedule is the release is in January 31 to release. The February 28th is the revisiting and finalizing of it after the release is done. There's a public hearing that's going to be in April, so there'll be more public engagement from between January release in 31 to the public hearing in April. Before the Board of County Commissioners, the Board of County Commissioners do not approve it till that April meeting. So there is going to be changes to the work program even after the initial release.
I guess maybe the best way to say it, I would like a transit plan amendment to include that project over the work program.
Even for the 27 request, putting into the CIP for the 27?
Not for the CIP. I think running at least the model with that assumed makes a lot of sense. I do think to endorse releasing that money of that
I
scale.
agree. I think that's
having it
a,
listed as
it's
a
a,
project
yeah.
in the transit plan would be very helpful.
And I believe the model has already been run with the 2 million.
Yes.
That's
So
already
Not the
programmed. It's already
model,
been,
though. We're talking about betting it with a larger group than the 7 of us or 8 of us, 10 of us, however many.
yeah. Understood. We will definitely get it to our commissioners and get a feedback from them and get back to
Yeah,
everyone.
but we need to also have a conversation before we can recommend this.
So it would be grateful if we could schedule a meeting between now and the 31st
For what?
to discuss this and try to get it.
No,
For the
we
work
need to
program or for
discuss
transit
this.
planning?
We need to discuss this with our elected officials. That's a
Oh, okay.
conversation Josh and I are having.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I had a
But-
misunderstanding. My misunderstanding.
I also think it's fair to say,
Train station?
the green one. But I also think it's fair to say, we don't need a transit plan amendment before January to approve the work.
Oh, yeah. The amendment process, I think, is a lengthy process itself, whether it's an amendment or a new plan. I mean, the amendment process is a lengthy one anyway.
Work program, I think, for Orange County's numbers, did we come to a conclusion there?
The model has run with the current set of numbers that are presented with, including all these increases in requests. The model is still good, solid. And if there's any changes, as in reduction, and if your people are reducing numbers, it'll be even more solid. And correct me if I'm wrong, Stephen, right now the model is good with all these numbers. If anybody wants to reduce them, change them down, it'll be even more solid. But if there's an increase or change to that, I think it is still solid because the increases are very minor. And
So Nish, did you decide then that the numbers on your operating projects are increasing above 2.5%? And if so, we never discussed why.
I think I got the estimated number of hours that are in there are the ones that we're increasing hours and we've increased our staff and we're providing more service. The number of hours, estimated hours have gone up. Not the cost per hour, but the number of hours of service that we're providing.
For fixed route?
Fixed route and rural service and mobile on demand.
What are you
We've hired
increasing
more
for fixed
drivers.
route?
We've hired more drivers and we've had more vehicles on the road.
But are they for services that had been cut?
No, for services, we're improving and increasing our service, because of increasing demand, we're increasing our services.
Oh,
The hours are increasing. We're providing
I
more.
know, but what is the service that's increasing?
Both the demand response that's in the, let me share my screen again.
No. I get demand response, right? Like you're getting more requests for service and now you have more operators to provide it. But for fixed route, what new services are you putting out?
It's just, I think we had more hours. We didn't, our Hillsborough circulator has gone into, we spent more hours on the Hillsborough circulator. We've increased the hours, the more
I guess.
services for the circulator.
So you're
How is that
changing,
separate from the Hillsborough Circulator 2.0 project?
The 2.0 project is the consolidation of, we had 3 Hillsborough circulator projects in the last year's annual report, or the year before, we consolidated them into one project. So this one Hillsborough circulator is separate from the other fixed routes.
so what are
The
you doing
Hillsborough
on the other
circulator by
fixed route?
itself. Huh?
So what are you increasing on the other fixed route?
It's the hill to hill is the only one. We brought the Orange Alamance back into service. That's been in service for the past couple of months. There's the only other 2 fixed routes is the Orange to Alamance connector and the hill to hill connector.
So they're returning to service or they're extending beyond what was ever done
We had more
before?
hours of service into both those routes. The increasing in the hours. When I was looking at the
So,
project sheets,
all
the
right,
cost
so,
per
but
hour
when
is
we do this, correct me if I'm wrong, folks, but when we do this, this gets identified as a new service or a new project and goes through the plan, but you're saying you're doing this by just increasing the cost of another project sheet?
improving on approved projects and adding more hours and more service to that thing that's already approved.
True, but those are listed as project plans in the transit plan.
They're already approved projects. We've just expanded and providing more services to them by increasing the hours for them. The cost per hour is the same one as approved in the last annual work program.
Yeah, but when we expand hours on the HS for weekend service, that's its own separate project in the transit plan.
I'm happy to separate each of the fixed route services out to separate fixed routes. I mean, I'm happy to remove the idea of a continuous fixed route service and create separate project sheets for separate fixed routes if that's what y'all request. I think one of the requests you wanted us to separate out the demand response and fixed routes and mobile on demand. That's what we have done. The cost per hours are as approved, but I'm happy to separate the fixed route into the separate fixed routes that we have.
Yeah, see, I thought when you did that, I thought the continuation of fixed route was just the current scope. I wouldn't expect that you would then start adding new projects into the continuation, because
There
for
are no
us,
new-
if we go ahead and add more span or more frequency, that becomes a new project. We don't just keep increasing the cost of a current project. You know what I'm saying? So when you had all the continuation of existing service, continuation of fixed route, I thought that was all your existing services. So if you're now adding new services, those are new projects. Like those need to be identified as such.
Okay, so let me
maybe-
let me understand. Let me understand. Let me make sure I have the right understanding. The continuation of transit service fixed routes are the same fixed route services that have been in the original work in the transit plan. Even if we increase hours or increase more services to those fixed routes, I need to create a separate project sheet for those improvements.
Well, yeah, so in the transit plans, that's what we would do. We would throw out concepts or look at projects that would expand our services by either increasing frequency or extending the span, and those would become projects that might be funded or not funded. But so I don't know. I thought your continuation was the cost associated with projects that had been previously funded. So
Yeah, especially looking at, the NS frequency and span improvements and the Route D improvements were similar types of projects that were listed out as separate projects.
I see. Okay, so I need to separate that out into the separate fixed routes and what improvements we've made to them and how they've been increasing. So there wouldn't be continuation of transit fixed route services, there'd be new services of existing approved projects.
yeah, like if you look at all of ours, they're, all the ones that we were just looking at, they're listed out by what the change actually is.
Okay. I can provide that updated information on that, because, okay.
because again, it allows us to, like, as a group to say, well, and I'm just making this up, but is an expansion of service till midnight on the circulator more important than, if the budget was constrained, more important than the expansion of another route, till 9 p.m., for example. Like, and by just continuously changing your service with this one thing, we never know what's in here.
Okay, understood. Even if it's increasing in the hours or anything like that, it still needs to be a separate project.
Yeah. Look
I
at
think-
everybody else's. Like, we
Okay.
have projects identified by what we wanted to do with it. Like the 400 for us is a big one, or the 800 this year. I think Josh just gave some examples of some of the Chapel Hill Transit ones. Because then you can see the changes that are being made.
So I can separate it out because like we were going over earlier, like let me see,
Yeah.
second. I can like Jay was saying earlier that the fixed rate had only gone up like 30,000. That 30,000, what is that actual increase, and what is that request for that 30,000 increase, or the 80,000 on the demand response? That 80,000 increase, what is that actual improvement as a separate project sheet of that improvement of that demand response? And the same thing with Mobile on Demand. What is that additional 100,000 increase? Because the request is only 100,000 for the Mobile on Demand, 80,000 on the rural route, and what 30,000 on the fixed route. So those small increases are the request for that improvement.
I mean,
I
do the
I think
project
it's the
sponsors-
fixed route. I think it's the fixed route one that's so confusing if you just keep adding to it. I mean, if the demand response and mobility on demand is truly just representing extra demand on those services, that's different. If the scope hasn't changed, if your hours haven't changed, if your days of the week haven't changed, and it's really just more people calling in for the service, that's different, I think, than if you're actually adding.
Although I will highlight that the mobility and demand improvements highlighted in the Orange County Short Range Transit Plan, I think are the type of project that I would like to see broken out, because those do include expanding hours and when the service is available.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So if that change, like typically if you're going to change the scope, then that's when you would, I thought these sheets were all just, a continuation of what you'd been doing for years. And so that's, yeah.
Okay.
If that's the way the group would prefer to address.
I can make the revisions. I can make the revisions with these additional, what the details of those changes are as separate project sheets.
Well, so
In the
are we
future-
saying, quick clarifying question, are we saying that anytime we make a change, it would be a new sheet, or we would just update the sheet by route? Because right now, what I think Go Triangle and Chapel Hill Transit have is, each route that has some funding in the transit plan, like, has a project sheet. And then, in the case of the 800, we updated that project sheet to delineate what was a previously funded transit plan improvement, and then starting in 25 for the 800, what was a new improvement. And I think it helps also for public consumption and review by electeds of, okay, here are the routes that are funded, and then by each route.
It makes perfect sense. I mean, I get it. I mean, that was one big cleanup for the Hillsborough Circulator. The Hillsborough Circulator was originally part of the continuation fixed route service, and we separated out those improvements to Hillsborough Circulator 2.0. And that Hillsborough Circulator is anytime we make changes to the circulator, it's in that project sheet. So if I separate it out, the hill connector, that's a separate project. So any changes and improvements to that would be on that project sheet. Anything changes to the Orange Alamance or anything else that is a fixed route would be on a separate project sheet. So there would no longer be a continuation of transit fixed route service. It would be separate project sheet for different routes.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just wanted to make sure I was understanding the consensus that the group was coming to. But it sounds like Nish and I are on the same page.
Yeah, and I'm happy to provide update these numbers so that they're all four of these are white and they're matching the 3.5, and the request for the additional increase is like 30,000 increase for the fixed route, 80,000 increase for like you said earlier, Meg, we'll keep the demand response in the rural transit and the mobile on demand, but going forward we can detail out like Josh was saying, detail out the mobile on demand what those improvements are going forward. Because I think there's a $100,000 increase request for that, and I can detail that out.
I was just gonna suggest this is the direction the group wants to continue in, to split everything out, but also, you know, in the future, if the group would like to consider how to bundle programmatic elements together, you know, that can be something we can look at too.
Yeah.
That might make everyone's life a little simpler.
Right.
All right, so
again, then these projects that are in both this item is covered as in both these, the capital projects are going to stay. I think I'm going to clean up the yellow and the blue in both these tables. Remove the two Chapel Hill ones that shouldn't even be on here, change some of the yellow and blue. I think Carborough is going to continue talking with Go Triangle and changing, updating some of their numbers. I will detail out R4 to be the white and the four actual, the request that is actually done, the $350,000 request for the, any changes, and detailing that out as a separate project sheets.
And for fiscal year 26, I think regardless of the broader conversation, both Hillsborough and Chapel Hill and everyone else in the conversation agrees that we are comfortable not requesting that money in 26, but potentially 27 or 28.
Putting into the CIP for 27 is not going to be shown anywhere, seen anywhere, because it's in the model of 27 going forward later. And then, like you said, continue having conversations on that project.
Yes.
It won't
So
be
for
in
the-
this work program.
So for the sake of this
So-
work
so
program, it
Nish-
would be removed.
Yes.
Yep.
Matt, just because I want to be very clear, because I want to make sure Paul and Priscilla are hearing this very clearly too. So Paul, that means on the CIP, we're gonna obviously upload a new one or change the one that's on there, but make sure that we're gonna have it on 27 and 28. And then Priscilla, that means that you could actually remove the project budget sheet from the consolidated package for the Hillsborough, I'm sorry, yeah, for Hillsborough's Ridge Walk Greenway. So I just want to make sure that everybody's clear on what needs to be. All right.
So I guess my only other question is, do we stay with this current schedule and release with those changes?
No, I was going to suggest, Nish, you have a little bit of wiggle room just in the calendar here. It looks like, because what do you have, a 3-week public comment period?
Yeah.
And I'm going to step out on a limb and assume that we don't get a huge amount of public comment. So it'd be easy enough to compile. So that gives you a little wiggle room, but it also, you have wiggle room just in the approvals. It looks like you could go to May with your BOCC public hearing and approval and still have it done before it goes to Go Triangle in June. So it could push everything back by a month, actually, it looks like.
And I appreciate earlier, and I think in September, y'all helped us clean up the schedule by only going to the public hearing one time. So whether it's in April or May, we have that flexibility rather than going multiple times. So the release will be from 31st, but then I think you said what, 31-day public review period. So we come back in February if we need to
I
make
think
changes.
it's 21. I think you only have 21, but I'm not sure.
21, okay. Like I said, if we release in the 31st of January, we continue making improvements, continue making revisions in February, and possibly March is the actual recommendation from the staff working group before it goes to the Board of County Commissioners in April or May. So we have between now and March to continue updating and making revisions and changes, and we can release, we don't really need to release again, but.
But we would want to release something to the public that we're all comfortable with.
Right. And right now we're going to make changes, removing the Ridgewell Greenway, still putting the CIP for 27. And then I'll clean up my project sheets and separate out the ones that are what is the actual request for the increase.
So we're postponing action on releasing for public comment until the February staff working group.
Well, we had to release 31st. The schedule right now is the release on the 31st. So do we want a special meeting? Do we want another meeting within the next 2 weeks? Or are you comfortable with releasing with these changes and continue making revisions and revisit the plan in February?
Didn't we just say that we had time to push it back? Was that not the conversation?
Yeah, I think my preference would be to have the final document that we want to release in front of us rather than releasing with the changes that we have said that we will make.
Okay, so you want to revisit back in February meeting?
And that gives you more time. too.
Okay. Okay. Whatever is favor of the board, the committee.
All right, so motion to postpone,
I'll move.
support,
Second.
motions to postpone do not have discussion. Is anyone opposed to postponing? All right, carries unanimously. Public engagement and communication, do we want to go over that or?
I don't have any, Orange County doesn't have any public engagement. We do have a bike ped plan. I think I sent out letters today to everybody to see if y'all would be part of the coordinating team for the bike ped plan that we're doing in this thing. That's all I have.
All right, well then, I'm sure we will have a good follow-up to those items. We have a financial report schedule update from, the always concise and brief Steve Schlossberg.
Yeah, hey Doug, since we're 12 minutes over, you could take that financial report as like what the model was. So we'll go try to get back some time.
Okay, great. So we're looking at the report as presented. Thank you very much, Stephen. And then project sponsor updates, starting with Chapel Hill. No updates?
No notable updates. Oh, we did get $24 million this week. So
Yes.
Yes,
Well-
congratulations on that.
thank
I
you.
saw that.
And
That
did I hear you
expected.
guys are working through the agreements for the ramp improvements and incorporating the BRT stops at the freeway? That those are
what?
close to moving forward?
BRT stops at the freeway.
The
Oh,
BRT.
the NCDOT project?
Yeah,
Yes, we will. Yeah, we have a right of way agreement that was drafted, so that's moving forward. That continuing to coordinate on the construction elements. So moving forward, planning
Well,
continues.
that's a really critical partnership to practice with, so.
Yes,
I'm really
absolutely.
impressed that that's working out well. See, I think we did not have anyone from Mevin. Any project updates from Hillsborough?
No further updates.
Great, thank you. Any project updates from Carborough?
Well, I don't want to jinx it, but we had a fruitful conversation with OLASA and may have a path forward for one of our big projects. So I'll leave it with that.
Did you burn sage
Yay.
in the room first? Okay, that's good news. Go Triangle, any project updates from you guys?
Yeah, just very briefly, service changes upcoming in early March. Check them out on our website, gotriangle.org/service changes. You can also Google Go Triangle service changes and you will find them.
Awesome, we'll check those out. Congratulations on moving those forward. With that, our next meeting is February 19th and we are adjourned.
Thank you very much.
Take the prerogative on that one. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, y'all. Have a
Thank-
great
Happy
weekend.
Thank you. Have a great
Friday.
weekend.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Have a great weekend.